What's going on, everyone? We got an interview here by a PlayStation executive who's slamming the live service Games Rush. And he thinks that it is a repetitive action engagement device. It gets very interesting because he's not even considering it to be a true game to him. And I agree with him in a lot of ways because it's psychological exploitation, gambling. There's some stuff we're going to get into. And this is a guy that wants Sony to continue focusing on that single player push, get back to some multiplayer hits instead of the live service rush. And honestly, he has a really good idea about this. So I think this is another one to get off track. We know there's a lot of Xbox drama going on too, but this is a good interview I found. So we're trying to find as many as we can. As we know, this just went live today on October 25th over here at Insider Gaming. And I got the whole thing over here that we're about to take a look at over at the Ringer. But we can take a look at some highlights here, and then we're going to get to the full thing so that we can talk about this. You know, when it comes to live service, the only thing that was anywhat successful for Sony has been Helldivers 2. You know what I mean? Outside of that, it's been like, oh man, that was not worth it. But they recovered and everything's going to be fine. They're going to keep on going. But yeah, never let that happen again. Now, going down here, in a recent interview with former PlayStation executive Shawn Layden, went in against the company's pivot to focus on live service games. As we knew, Layden was not for that, and that's why they had to get him out, which is not good. Which has yet to pay off. For several years, PlayStation Studios have tried to produce a solid live service game, but mostly failed in their quest to do so. This is a Layden saying that. Layden, who departed PlayStation in 2019 due to creative direction the company was taking, recently criticized the live service market, explaining how, in his eyes, live service titles aren't real video games. Damn, that's a bold statement. So guys, I'm gonna tell you right now, remember what I've been saying too about what ruins the gaming industry more than anything, not Game Pass, any of that? It is live service, because when you look at what people do on there, it's like, oh my God, this is terrible. And then you look at the communities, they're not even human, they're like subhuman. And it just promotes trash. They overfocus on things that they spend money on instead of actually developing content for the game. They gate you behind, they get way more money out of you. They turn gaming into a gambling addict and make it like an online Las Vegas. You know what I mean, in certain ways. So yeah, man. And then, you know, it comes all the urban and all that stuff. I mean, do it in your privacy. But I'm just saying, these type of games usually do not produce a soulful aspect to the gaming industry. It actually hurts and destroys it and creates toxic cesspools and all that sorts of stuff, and just turns gaming, like I said, into a psychological gambling addiction rather than you actually making a really good video game. I hate it. I don't like it. And it memes and gestures making a joke out of gaming. I don't like it. Again and again, in an interview with The Ringer, a variety of industry names gave their 2 cents to answer the question, why can't Sony make more multiplayer hits? I agree, that's an important thing. That's why they got to rely on Call of Duty. They're kind of scared of that, probably. One such name was Shawn Layden, a former PlayStation executive who was at the company for just short of a decade, who has fired shots at live service mission on PlayStation slate. A live service game, to me, isn't really a game. It's a repetitive action engagement device. Very true when it comes to live service games. They are like that, and then they want to take your money monthly and get you to do it. Yeah, it's very repetitive and soulless for the most part, unless it's really good. That's not common. For me, a game, because of where I come from, means I need three things. I need a story, I need a character, and I need a world. And Horizon, God of War, and Uncharted have all three of those things with direction, emotional impact. You feel there's something that, like that in live service game is usually like trash. And as you've seen it, it's slop. If you're doing a live service game, you just need a repetitive action that most people can get their head around, an ability to communicate in that world with other like-minded people, and the player's desire to do it again and again and again, and give me more money than you need after, you know, getting in. Very true, man. And you see, when you have this is a huge problem. It is, and everybody knows it. Layden went on to stress that every developer successful in the live service space found the winning formula 5 to 6 years ago. There was a boom of sorts that saw games like Fortnite skyrocket in popularity. And since then, everyone with a multiplayer offering seems to have jumped on a seasonal operating model. And we have seen that, very true. These days, it's very rare to succeed with a new live service game, Layden says. Yeah, we saw Helldivers 2, but how rare was that? Outside of that, we've seen the biggest disasters happen because of that. You know, like Concord, that was a disaster. Fair Game's looking like disaster. Marathon, potentially. Like, it's stuff that hurts you so bad because instead of doing that, you could have made a great video game. You would have been way more successful. You could have made $1 billion. Could have sold 10, 15 million, right? At 70 or whatever. I mean, it's like, You could have drove like cells and you could have kept your mascot and your balance going, but they didn't do that. Didn't you try a multiplayer game? You know what I mean? Not just all that or whatever. So he's like, it's like a mirage on top of a sand dune. You guys know what a mirage is in a sand dune. It's an illusion. You pursue it, you can't quite get there. Yeah, you're never doing it. You're just running in that loophole doing that. And it's the same thing over and over again. They give you a different surface. You know, he's right though, because underlying it is the same formula. Or if you do get there, what you brought to the party, no one wants to play anyways. You kind of get into like this apathetic state, sit around. Like I said, it creates toxicity because they're not engaging. Some of them can just hit the buy button, and nobody gives a damn. They got what they wanted. I'm out. You see what I mean? Yeah, it's not really healthy for like the face of gaming. And Fortnite may turn it into a mean jest of battle royale and kill the soul of everything that had happened for decades. Yeah, it's terrible. That's why I love Nintendo, because they're never gonna do that. And that's very important. Now Sony knows how important that is, and to never do that again too. But of course you still want that as well, because they want to make money. Now going over here, this is where things started in the ringer. We're gonna get to the right thing right here. So we're gonna go down. Here it is right here. It's a long one, so we're gonna get to the core here. Live service games look much the same as their single-player counterparts. A player-controlled third-person avatar, or simply an arm clutching a finely modeled gun, likely sits at the center of the screen, traversing some wondrous space that strains the physical laws of our own universe. But the skill set involved in actually making these games, of designing one to be played at a most handful of times, and others is perpetuity, could scarcely be more different. Jost van Drenin. It sounds like a Dutch guy. Jost van. And yeah. A professor at NYU Stern School of Business and author of the Super Jost playlist, or Juice, however you want to say it, newsletter, never know what like foreign names, sums up the distinction succinctly. Okay, we're using some nerdy words here. Running a live service game is more like running a theme park than shipping a movie. True, because it is. It's like a live service casino. So I said it's like a casino in Vegas. It's like a theme park. We got to keep these people in and keep them engaged to the same thing they're repeating over and over and over again. And add them some new stuff to the theme park over time. Adding some new stuff to the casino. Do we got the casino popping tonight? Are you spending all that money, giving me more and more and more money? Not just entry fee. Keep going. I got all these games. And I want you to give me a lot of money. And then you know what happens in Vegas, right? Sin City and all that. So I said it comes to those type of communities and all that, because that's what they're doing. And that's what it invites. So it not only does it destroy the soul of gaming, but it perverts it as well. I mean, yeah, you can have your own private stuff, but it gets to the point to where now it's a public cesspool like that. And it's no longer fun after a while, because it's just like, I mean, yeah, man, the soul's just not there. And I hate it. World of Warcraft had the right thing, because they did it the right way. Even ground and all that. And you're actually getting everything out of the content. So... He says, like running a theme park, not shipping a movie. Done product. He tells me it takes years of practice, not just big budgets. Yeah, how long can you keep that going? You gotta work every single day. It's not like finishing a game, no, you have to be there every single day. Maintenance, server maintenance, all that. So it's a big, long thing. That's why Sony was opening up those operations. For many years, Sony found great success with this movie-like model of making games. Since 2014, the company has been nominated for Game of the Year at the Game Awards 12 times. Yeah, them and Nintendo's get the most. More than any other publisher, and won on 3 occasions: God of War, Last of Us Part 2, and Astro Bot. Though we know there's look, man, I don't downplay things, but man, some things are a little bit fishy. That's all I'll say sometimes. But Sony definitely does have those games, though. No doubt about that. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying Astro Bot. Good game, though. Great game, actually. Layden can take a great deal of credit for this run as the head of PlayStation during many of those years. Yeah, he was the winner. He won. You know what I mean? Him. You can look at Andrew House, Shuhei Yoshida. So when I want to listen to them, because they win and they have vision. They know how to win. He notes that these critically acclaimed games are often also commercial juggernauts. 5 of the 10 best-selling PlayStation 4 titles were developed in-house, even as live service competitors like Fortnite and GTA Online racked in billions. Layden felt a little jealousy of anxiety. Of course, we took all the information in, he says. But my view at the time was, we're super strong on single player. That's your strength. You gotta know what you're good at. Instead of trying to imitate and chase something and lost your identity. Almost destroyed your... That's what I'm saying. You gotta be careful with that. Microsoft's done that way too many times. We have the best narrative in the business. It was a case of, I'm doing Last of Us. That's where we swim. Exactly. That's your identity. Layden's not gonna have that. and I'm gonna do Spider-Man. And PlayStation is going to have it. You know, it's gonna be why it's gonna be fine. We're winning. Nothing's getting canceled. Our identity's there, and it's back again. But you know, that's the danger that I tell people when it comes to identity crisis. Be careful with it. You lose your identity, you lose everything, and you gotta stay true to who you are. Don't get lost in the shadow of something else. Microsoft tried to do that Kinect stuff. Sony tried to do the PlayStation Move, right? It didn't work. Mod Nation kart racers like Mario Kart, the PlayStation All-Stars, it wasn't working. You see what I mean? It's like, no, Sony, get back to what you do. You know what I mean? Microsoft, you lost yourself. Yeah, and then they had Xbox identity, and then Game Pass, what happened? Yeah, man, you gotta have an identity. Otherwise, nobody wants to get your product, because there's no identity with it. Moreover, suggests Layden, it wasn't immediately apparent that the live service behemoths that now dominated in terms of both player count and revenue were ever going to become so successful. Fortnite famously launched for $40 in 2017 with just a single mode, Save the World. I remember that, because Pazinski was there, and then they chased that PUBG stuff. They found a way with it. A cooperative objective-based game in which 4 players could team up to fight quasi-zombies, save survivors, collect resources, build shelters, and repel a devastating storm. Within months, its maker Epic, inspired by the gargantuan success of PlaygroundUnknown's Battleground, not known as PUBG, added a new Battle Royale mode. As a result, the game jumped from 1 million players in the first month at the same time, and just the first day, to 10 million within 2 weeks. Fortnite is a classic example of catching lightning in a jar. Yeah, that's very rare. And Layden is right. It's like, just because they did it doesn't mean the rest of the world needs to follow. You're just going to all fall down. That's lightning in a bottle. Like, and you have to be wise to know that. That's where Layden has wisdom. You can't plan for that. You can't prepare for that. You can't envision that. No, you don't know that's going to happen. So taking that type of gamble is kind of stupid. Definitely when you realize it's lightning in a jar. 99 out of 100 times it's going to fail. GTA Online, a game that has historically earned its publisher $500 million in revenue every year, and whose ongoing success is likely a major reason why players have to wait 13 years for GTA 6. Launched in 2013 in similarly underwhelming fashion, it took many years to recover. The major live service sports franchises EA, FIFA, NBA 2K, and Madden all began offline before incorporating live service elements. Those games came increasingly mid out there because it's like so repetitive now. Because you're focusing too much on that instead of making a really good video game. Including the contentious inclusion of gambling like loot boxes. Either you are a dozen years in the making, Layden said, of live success, or you get one lucky dip. He's right, because Sony only had Helldivers 2. And they got lucky that they got that. That felt like lightning in a bottle because of PC. And they did a good job, because Helldivers 1 did not do that. But everything else was like, oh man, this is not good. Well, everything's going terrible. Everything's getting canceled. Like, he's right, that's lightning in a bottle. You have to be careful with that. It's very, very risky. Yet there's no denying these type of games' ascension in 2010s. Their astronomical success called a lot of strategic discussions at Sony concerning Layden's decision to pursue single-player titles. Ultimately, he left the company in 2019 because it was intent on pursuing a live service strategy. See, I knew it! He wasn't on board with that. That's what I'm saying. He saw it, and he was right. That's what I'm saying. I listen to Shawn Layden because he knows what he's talking about. He's a winner. He won. Not my skill set, he says bluntly. So no, this is not me. I don't want that identity. That's not who I am. I'm out. He kept his soul. He's like, no, I'm not. Like, and I understand that. He said bluntly, he's serious about that. He knew he was right. Shawn Layden has soul, he knows. But neither, it's like Pete Hines left, neither were these the type of experiences Layden was interested in creating. Shuhei was the same way. From a philosophical perspective, a live service game to me isn't really a game. He says it's a repetitive action engagement device. It isn't a device installed into you to take your money. Smart. So, and then we saw that, right? For me, it's a game where I come from. We saw that. So going down, let's keep going what he said, because we didn't get this. Layden's framing of a live service game as a repetitive action engagement device, in contrast to traditional single-player titles, reflects the higher value he places on linear, conventional narratives compared to the messier, multifaceted Gen Z player authored experiences that emerge on Fortnite, Minecraft, and Roblox. But like I said, what happens in those fucking worlds? Terrible stuff. So I said, okay, invites that. And then often spill onto YouTube. The phrase also satirizes how his former executive colleague sees their games, describing the making of Marathon in a business briefing. PlayStation Studio CEO Herman Hulst referred to a constant testing and constant revalidation of assumptions. I can understand that. He described development as a feedback loop between player and developer. You and them. Yeah, you have that communication. But what happened with all of that? Oh man, you cut off in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? Japan got cut off. Jim Ryan did all this terrible things. Yeah, it just became a mess. Hmm. Most crazy stuff you ever seen in PlayStation. People were worried big time. Then Microsoft's like, "Oh, don't worry about that." You know what I mean? Yeah. Um, he described development as a feedback loop between a player and a developer, a cycle of test, of iterate, of test again, he said, is a key component of the live service success, both leading up to launch, but also throughout the life of the game. In hostess prepared speech, fun, entertainment, and excitement were not name checked as primary goals. Right, that's why Concord was abysmal. Instead, he sought to maximize engagement and player satisfaction. Host words and high-profile flops of Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, Marvel Avengers. Square Enix had to sell them off, get rid of them. Yeah, they lost so much money live service. They tried to do that too. Lost. I said, Square, don't do that again. You know what I mean? Like, went for the Western Marvels. What happened? Terrible disaster. Lost all that money. That's what I'm saying. Nah, be careful. Don't lose your identity again. You just got it back. And Concord speak to why players have become so suspicious of live service titles. Yeah, I hate them. These are games in which telemetry, i.e. the accuracy of in-game real-time player data, is used not to just fine-tune gameplay, but to keep players plugged in. Yeah, like you're in a matrix and they're putting this device in, just brainwashing you and convincing you that you're spending money on these cosmetics things, just sitting around. FOMO effects is gone, but they keep the money. You could have went and got multiple different video games, enjoyed all those different worlds online, but when you get stuck in that, then they just overspend on this mundane garbage instead of supporting real video games. It's bad. And they're just sitting around spending money on memes and jesting. What is that doing for gaming? Makes you a clown show. Yeah, terrible. This strategy can feel like corporate overreach, a particularly rapturous modern form of capitalism, solving players increasingly precious leisure time. Perhaps this is the result of an executive landscape that, according to Layden's characterization, is run more by business people than creativity. Yeah, because they're not going to be creative. It's soulless nonsense. I'm just trying to get their own benefits. Yeah, that's literally what that does, and it invites those type of people. They sit there just screwing over the game for a profit and all this stuff. So none of, I'm telling you, none of that stuff. It's just bad. I've seen it time and time again, and I'm like, oh man, no. Seen it happen to some of my favorite franchises. Terrible stuff. Thanks to Sony's console market leading position, its live service woes may hardly even matter. The company, which has also invested 1.45 billion in Fortnite, could simply be too big to fail. Speaking about Sony's many live service failures and rumored cancellations, Van Drunen, or however he says his name, says they sting, but they're not fatal. That's because Sony still makes most of its money from hardware sales, cuts of third-party software sales, and single-player games like Ghost of Yotei. A $60 million budget. So even if live service fizzles, the PlayStation 5 business is strong, he says, because you still stuck to your soul and your hardcore and the foundation of what you are. Never stray away from that. The real risk isn't collapse, it's wasted time and money. Because you could have had strong single-player or multiplayer games there that could have gone into what Sony already does best, their identity, not losing that, but saying, hey, you're crazy. We'll do one live service game here and there, but we're keeping that identity going. And we're never going to, ever, Nintendo would never do this, and they're not going to do that, ever. What, you ain't going to see them do it? They didn't. Look at the way they did Animal Crossing, almost sold 50 million. See, they know what they're doing. Look at Smash, 36, 37 million. You know what I mean? Other games in their 30s or 40 millions, it's rolling. It's not a live service. So they have multiplayer, you know what I mean? Pokemon selling that, but they're not going to do that. They're not going to try to microtransaction. They're not going to lose their identity. And they're not going to chase power either. They're going to stick to being Japanese and being what they've done best. They're never going to break apart. They got that strong bond and unity. They're not selling out. You see, it wins that path, but you got to do it the right way. So last November, Sony president Hiroki Totoki called single-player games our strengths, and they said have a high predictability of becoming hits due to a proven IP, your mascot and intellectual property. As for live service projects, which Totoki said, pursue upside while taking on a certain amount of risk. Facts. Not nitro gas rushing off the cliff. Van continues, they're cutting scope, not quitting. Exactly. Half the slate is gone. Marathon is delayed, and leadership now talks about failing fast. Think less of live service flood, more of a trickle. So, just going down here, we see these type of things, right? we're getting the idea here. Richmond stresses it's not just Sony that's failing. One of the projects dropped in Microsoft's recent rounds was cut, a new MMO being called ZeniMax. They dropped it. They dropped the other stuff too. Ubisoft launched a free-to-play X Defiant, right? That shut down. EA, Dragon Age Velgard from live service into a single-player game mid-development. Capcom also reportedly stayed work on Resident Evil Requiem. They remember they had that deep down live service. They canceled that too. Before shifting its focus back to single-player. Like most live service, if you see, they mostly fail and they die real quick. So, if you're trying to go into the space because you have this illusion in your mind of big sacks of money coming every day from the rest of your life, for most, it doesn't happen, says Layden. So, we get the idea, don't we? Don't chase that goose. Keep your identity. And, going down here, guys, I mean, it's just basically saying whatever. So, let me know what you guys think about this. After Ghost of Yote, look at what Sony's doing. Death Stranding, see, it's getting back to it. That's the Sony we know. Later, y'all. Layden? Yeah, he's always right. He's a winner. Peace.